Pixar hasn't had a heavy-hitting original movie in a long time. It's been a series of sequels or box office flops as far as the eye can see. Until one day, a movie starring a robot beaver hopped into theaters. Hoppers! Genuinely, I'm really happy to see a new Pixar concept getting a decent box office opening. Especially after the situation with Elio last year. I'll be honest with you though, Hoppers was good, it was a fun time, but what keeps eating at me is it doesn't really feel like a Pixar movie. And I think I figured out not only why that is, but also how it actually ties back to Elio and the new direction Pixar seems to be going in as a company.
Put on your tin hats and grab your right string for the murder board, folks. We've got a wild one.
I've gotta hand it to Pixar though. Hoppers looks great. The animals are fun and easy to tell apart, even when there's multiple beavers on screen. Mabel's human design is so unique and interesting that I immediately wanted to draw her. The Pixar style is still there in a familiar way, but pushed in a fun, stylized direction that I really liked. And it's not just nice to look at, it had a solid high-concept premise. And I love a high-concept story. A college girl puts her consciousness into a robot beaver so she can blend in with wildlife and figure out why animals are leaving their habitat, and hopefully help them. That's a great setup.
It's the only beaver-themed movie I know that much.
It's unique, it's easy to understand immediately, it sounds like it could lead to a lot of funny situations. As someone who always loved animals and nature, this premise felt right up my alley. I'd even say the movie has a really solid third act. The entire second half had me completely unsure what was going to happen next, and it genuinely surprised me a few times. There's even a twist villain, I won't spoil it, but the payoff is great, especially if you enjoy a slightly creepy twist that never quite goes too far.
Reminded me a lot of Gravity Falls' Weirdmageddon, and that's high praise.
The film isn't perfect though, and weirdly most of the things I didn't like were exactly what they heavily featured in the trailers. The funny talking beaver movie with the lizard meme, emojis, weird noises, and the whole this into this joke. If that's even a joke.
There is an entire scene where animals make annoying beeping sounds. It goes on for way too long.
The humor in the marketing felt like it was talking down to the audience. There's a moment where Mabel finds the button on the beaver robot. It's actually a funny moment, until the movie literally points at it and says,
"She found the button."
Okay, now I don't want to laugh anymore. A lot of the middle section feels over-explained or overly memey. Like the movie doesn't trust the audience to get the joke unless they underline it 3 times. Which is wild because the movie is funny. It's just that sometimes the writing adds this extra layer of forced, out-of-touch jokes that actually make the humor worse. Why do we need this into this, when later the movie just shows a giant, man-eating shark being flown through the sky by a flock of seagulls chasing a car? That is hysterical all by itself, and slightly terrifying. You don't need a flashing laugh now sign when the visual itself is already funny. So the animation and storyboarding feel sophisticated, but parts of the writing feel weirdly immature, and that extends beyond the humor. The movie doesn't want you to think or feel anything too deeply. It just wants to whisk you along for the ride.
It's your classic, turn your brain off in your popcorn movie.
And it is a fun ride, don't get me wrong, but tonally, it feels a little strange because of it. The good news is that if you hated the trailers, you might still like the movie.
Yay?
Hoppers actually starts out pretty strong. We meet young Mabel as an angry kid learning from her grandmother how to enjoy being part of something bigger. Nature. And after a slightly awkward middle stretch,
which felt like it took way longer than it did,
the movie eventually goes completely hog wild with its concept in a way that I really liked. I went from feeling a little bored and cynical in the middle to being completely riveted by the second half.
Fire, destruction, robots, terrified citizens running away.
By the end, I was honestly amazed they got away with some of the things they did. So if you miss seeing original Pixar in theaters, I really do think this one's worth checking out.
Support new ideas, people.
You'll probably forget about the awkward middle by the time the credits roll. But here's the weird part. Just doesn't feel like a Pixar movie. In fact, I'd argue it feels more like a DreamWorks movie.
It feels like a different animation company?
Something closer to Shrek. Chaotic energy, slightly irreverent comedy, action-heavy sequences, a tone that's just a little bit edgy. Meanwhile, not that long ago, DreamWorks released Wild Robot, which, ironically, feels like much more of a classic Pixar film. It was that quiet, somber beauty that lets you sit with complicated emotions. It almost feels like a spiritual cousin to Wall-E. So, what's going on here? Why does the tone of Hoppers feel so different from what we usually expect from Pixar? Here's an example from the movie that perfectly shows what I'm talking about. About halfway through the film, there's a scene where a council of animals gathers together. They come to a conclusion, thanks to Mabel, that one particular character, Jerry, is a problem. And that problem needs to be eliminated.
Bye-bye, Jerry.
So all these adorable woodland creatures start chanting ominously. They're basically chanting about killing him, which is already surprisingly dark for a kids' movie. But instead of saying kill, the movie swaps the word out for something else to soften it. The animals chant squish, like when you squish a bug.
Squish lacks a certain something, don't you think?
Was that supposed to make the murder less scary? Was squish supposed to make it funny? Because honestly, it just made the scene feel eerie. And maybe not in the way they meant to.
Like, uncanny valley between, ooh, creepy, and, oh, how adorable and dorky.
It felt like the movie wanted the shock value of something dark, but was too nervous to fully commit to it and made a joke instead.
Not funny, didn't laugh.
And it created this strange tonal middle ground where the movie seems a little afraid to say words like death, even when the story is clearly tap dancing around them. Which is strange because Pixar used to be famous for doing the opposite. Pixar didn't just make good family films.
They made movies that emotionally destroyed people.
Think about the most iconic Pixar moments. Inside Out, when Bing Bong sacrificed himself.
Take her to the moon for me.
In Finding Nemo, Marlin believes Nemo died when he sees him floating upside down during an escape plan. In Toy Story 2, Jessie sings about being abandoned by the person she loved most in the world. In Up, well, Up is famous for its opening sequence that absolutely devastates everyone watching.
I'm still too scared to watch Up, but in a good way.
People used to go to Pixar movies expecting to cry. Parents brought tissues. It was part of the experience. Pixar trusted audience, including kids, with big, complicated emotions. And people loved them for it. That's what made a Pixar movie feel like a Pixar movie. Hoppers isn't really doing that. It avoids those kinds of moments almost entirely. For example, early in the movie, we see Mabel was basically raised by her grandmother. She's the one who teaches Mabel how to connect with nature and channel her anger into something productive. It sets up a great relationship. And then there's a time skip. And it's heavily implied that her grandmother died, but the movie never really lets that moment land. We get a few memories, a few reminders of their time together, but the story never really allows Mabel to really sit with that loss. The pond they shared became more of a plot point motivation than an emotional wound. It's something she wants to protect, but it never quite feels like losing it would break her heart. I actually have a perfect example of this done well in a movie that most people probably haven't seen. In the movie Flipped, the main character Julie loves sitting in a sycamore tree near her bus stop. Then one day, the city decides to cut it down. To everyone else, it's just an ugly old tree. But to Julie, it's special.
I could sit there for hours, just looking out at the world.
She refuses to come down from it.
Oh, we're gonna cut you down.
Go ahead. Cut me down. I'm not coming down. I'm never coming down.
Tearfully defending it.
Daddy, please don't let them do this.
When the tree is eventually cut down anyway, she mourns it like she lost a friend. It becomes a symbol for the rest of the movie, about perspective, love, and growing up. With Mabel and Hoppers, the motivation is there. She deeply cares about the pond. She'd be the same situation as Flipped, right? But it never quite feels like losing it would be personally devastating to her in the same way. It feels more like determination than grief.
We gotta fight back!
It lacks that complex mix of emotions it could have easily had. And that's the difference between good storytelling and truly unforgettable emotional storytelling. This sounds incredibly masochistic. Like I'm sitting here complaining the movie didn't hurt my feelings enough. But I'm serious. This emotional intensity is what separated Pixar's classic films from a lot of the ones they've made recently. Even the ones I really do like. They made us laugh, they made us cry, and they blended those feelings together into something unforgettable. And it feels like that part of Pixar is slowly fading away. And that brings me back to Elio.
And if you want to hear more about that train wreck, you should go see our video on why Elio flopped in theaters.
The original version of that film was based on director Adrian Molina's own childhood experiences. Personal stories like that tend to create powerful emotional moments, because they come from somewhere real.
But I guess some people thought that was too specific, and thought it made sense to almost completely remake the movie, after it was almost done. I feel like it would have wasted less money to just put it out there anyway the way it was, but sure, let's make basically a whole other movie with the same characters, why not?
The story was heavily rewritten, and a lot of those elements were removed. particularly a scene showing Elio had a male crush. And when Pixar's chief creative officer, Pete Docter, was asked about those changes,
This was very recent. This is not last year, guys. This just happened.
he said something that really stuck with me.
We're making a movie is not hundreds of millions of dollars of therapy.
But, yeah,
That's what you do.
that's exactly what Pixar used to do. People went to Pixar movies ready to cry. They expected emotional devastation and beautiful catharsis. Pixar films felt like therapy sessions in the best way possible. They helped us process our feelings. They made us confront difficult emotions in a safe, beautiful way.
They've made me cry about a toy with abandonment issues.
And lately, it feels like Pixar's afraid to do that. Now, to be clear, I did like Hoppers. It's a solid movie, and I'd watch it again. It's creative and funny, and the second half genuinely surprised me in a lot of good ways. And audiences are showing up for it.
Now that's the shocking part of all this, if you ask me.
That's great news, because it means original Pixar films can succeed at box offices. They can still do well. I hope Pixar sees that and makes more original films instead of leaning entirely on sequels.
Yeah, we really don't need another 5 Toy Story movies.
But I also hope they don't learn the wrong lesson from this. Hoppers isn't successful because it avoids big emotions. And it's not successful because it's handed down every potential complicated idea. Pixar wasn't built on playing it safe. Pixar was built on stories that made us feel everything. So while Hoppers is good, it isn't one of the greats. And that's the difference between good Pixar movies and unforgettable classics. So that's my thoughts on Hoppers. And I'm really curious, have you seen it in theaters, and did you feel the same way about it that I do? Or do you think I'm totally wrong, and this is absolutely a normal classic Pixar movie? I'd love to know what you think.
Or, answer my much more fun question, if you had the chance to hop into an animal robot to spy on animal communities, what animal robot would you choose? Because, apparently, the actors got asked this question a million times.
And I asked you that question because we have been asked that question 156,000 times.
And now I want to know, what's your answer?
For me, I'd probably go with a fox or an owl.
And if you want to see even more Pixar chaos, go check out our Elio video right here.
And that's all we've got for this video. So we'll see you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
Subscribe, 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 subscribe.